Hi, hello, how are you? Let's tier rank things that might go wrong in your RV. If you don't know, this is a type of video that's very popular to do, usually in the booktube community where people like tier rank their favorite books. Today, we are tier ranking some of the most common calls that I get as a tech to go out and fix people's RVs. If you don't know me, hi, hello, my name is Emily. I am a certified mobile RV repair tech. I run the one-woman business, RV Repair Woman, where I drive around, help people fix things in their RVs. I also make online educational content, so you can hopefully fix things around your rig all by yourself. Today, I have gathered almost 20 of the most common calls that I get as a tech, and we're going to rank them based on how excited I am when I get a phone call for one of these problems. Without further ado, let's jump into it. So first, let's go over the tiers. If you're new to this type of format, the top is considered the best, the bottom is considered the worst. I know the color scheme seems weird, but this is like the normal color scheme people do for these videos. Red's on top, green's on bottom, but red is the best, green is the worst. This is the standard. I'm just working with what people have given me. And then people usually have fun naming the tiers. So for top tier, we have National Park. Basically the feeling that you get as an RVer when you drive into the perfect national park spot. The birds are singing, you're one with nature, there's no one around, and you're like, this is why I got into RVing. That feeling, but for RV calls. When I get these type of calls, I'm like, this is why I got into fixing RVs. Below that, we have RV Park. This is the same feeling as we have a lot of very nice RV parks here in Las Vegas. They got plenty of nice amenities, great spots, great hookups. You're very near to the strip, so there's lots of fun things to do, but you're not necessarily out in nature, becoming one with the world. So really awesome spot, but not necessarily like giving you that feeling of this is why I got into RVing. Below that, we have Rest Stop, which is like, we've all been there when you're traveling and you run into a stop that you're like, the only reason that this RV spot exists is because it's in between two interesting places. Like no one is stopping here because they were really excited about this spot. Below that, we have Walmart parking lot. You know, it's there, it's doing its job, but like you're not excited that you're there. And then finally at the bottom, we have broke down on the side of the road. Nobody wants her, nobody wants to be her. We all cross our fingers that we never get her. So those are our tiers. Let's jump into some of these calls that I get as a tech. Because it's January, let's start with furnaces. It's a little cold outside, I'm getting furnace calls. Let's start there. So furnaces themselves, super easy to diagnose. Like if you gave me a furnace on a bench table, I could have that guy diagnosed in under 60 seconds almost every time. Often when people tell me what's wrong with their furnace, I can tell just from them telling me over the phone what their furnace is doing, what's wrong with it. The reality is like 80% of the time when it comes to these furnaces, your problem is a part called the sail switch. It likes getting dog hair stuck into it and it prevents the furnace from turning on. So actually diagnosing a furnace, very easy. Getting to the furnace to be able to diagnose it is where the trickiness comes in. So there's two things that are gonna make diagnosing and working on a furnace difficult. The first is whether or not your furnace has an access panel. So if you don't know, RV manufacturers are slowly but surely not putting access panels to furnaces on their RVs. It usually just comes off with like 4 screws and then boom, I can get to almost all the parts of your furnace very easily. For cost saving reasons, a lot of manufacturers are not putting these doors on their RVs anymore. And wow, does it make it hard to work on furnaces. If you do not have an access panel and you call me with a furnace call, in order to even get to your furnace, be able to start diagnosing what's wrong, I'm going to have to run a propane leak test on your whole rig to make sure that you don't have a propane leak. I then need to disconnect the propane line from your furnace. I then need to unscrew the furnace, both from the outside of the RV and from the inside. I need to disconnect all of the ducting from the furnace. Then we can finally pull the furnace out, hopefully. And then finally, we can begin diagnosing your furnace. So that is a lot of steps to go through just to even get to the parts of your furnace. Whereas if you have an access panel, we pull off 4 screws, we pull that door off, boom, we're right at your furnace and we're good to go. So on the basics, we're gonna say if your furnace has an access panel, we're gonna say RV park. Okay? It's not my favorite thing to work on, but if you have an access panel, it can be so quick and easy to diagnose. If your furnace does not have an access panel, we're going Walmart parking lot, baby. Like, doable. I've done it a lot, but we're not as excited about it as if it had the access panel. From furnaces, let's move on there to air conditioners. I'll be real frank, air conditioners, my favorite appliances to work on as a tech. They were the first appliance that I learned about when I went to school. If you don't know, I went to a school out in Texas called the NRVTA, or the National RV Training Academy. There you do like a week of fundamentals, and then you start going into weeks specifically for each appliance. And air conditioners was my first appliance specific week at the NRVTA. And for me, that was the week when just like everything clicked. And I was like, okay, I can do this. So I have a lot of love and affinity for furnaces, and being based out here in Las Vegas, I get air conditioner calls all summer long. So I've broken up air conditioners here into two types of calls. There's usually two things people call about with their air conditioner. Either their air conditioner is not turning on at all, or it's turning on but not cooling. So we're gonna say if your air conditioner is not turning on at all, boom, that is a national park call for me, baby. If the appliance is not turning on at all, that is usually an easier to diagnose problem than the appliance turning on but not doing some specific thing that you want it to do, like cooling, for instance, when it comes with the air conditioner. So usually if your air conditioner is not turning on, you've usually just broken a fuse or flipped a breaker. So a lot of times these problems can be solved super quick. But yeah, air conditioner not turning on, probably my favorite call of all time to get as a tech. It's just so easy to solve most of the time. And then air conditioner turning on but not cooling. Ooh, do I go RV park? Do I go top of RV park or still in national park? I think I'm still gonna go national park. I just love working on air conditioners. They're so straightforward. They look scary to a lot of people, but they don't have a ton of wires. As soon as you learn about them, you know what every wire in the air conditioner is doing. There's ways to double check almost anything that could go wrong in an air conditioner, whereas once we get into some other appliances, there's not always an easy way to double check your work. With air conditioners, there almost always is. But know that as a customer, these air conditioners are also pretty easy to diagnose on your own. A little bit of self-promo here. If you ever do have a problem with your air conditioner, head on over to rvrepairwoman.com/AC guides. And I have PDF guides that'll walk you through step by step how to test every part of your air conditioner. Like, it's so simple. You can put it in a PDF guide, and those things cost less than what any tech is going to charge to come look at your air conditioner, and you can diagnose it all by yourself. Just something to check out if you have any problem with your air conditioner this summer. From there, let's move on to fridges. Fridges also, we usually split up into the fridge won't turn on, or the fridge is turning on but not cooling. Fridge won't turn on at all, I think I'm gonna put in the upper end of RV park. I don't have the same love and affinity for fridges that I do for air conditioners, but a fridge not turning on is usually something that we can solve pretty damn quick. These fridges have a whole bunch of heat sensors in the back as safety mechanisms, and we have a tendency to trip them a lot, especially here in Las Vegas where things can get extra hot than in other places. So like, when people call me saying their fridge won't turn on, over half of the time it's one of those heat sensors, at least out here in Las Vegas. Fridge turning on and not cooling, we're gonna put at the bottommost end of Walmart parking lot. Here's something they don't tell you at the dealership when you buy your RV. If you have an absorption style fridge in your RV, which means you have a fridge that has a gas and an electric setting, and you get to pick which one you want, that fridge works ideally when it is 75 degrees outside. Those fridges really like when you chase roughly around 70, they work perfectly, or as good as they're gonna work. But the maximum outside temperature that those fridges are made to work at is 85 degrees Fahrenheit. So once the outside temperature gets above 85 degrees, we are outside of the design specs for these air conditioners. Well, I am a tech based in Las Vegas. Once we hit June, end of June, early July, we will never get back down to 85 degrees until probably end of September, going into October. 85 degrees who? We don't know her. So it can be really hard to diagnose if the fridge is not working because there's something wrong with the fridge, or is the fridge not working because we are simply outside of the range of what it ever expected to work in. This can make it near impossible to warranty fridges in the summer out here because the warranty companies are almost always going to be like, it's because it's too hot outside. And you're trying to tell them like, no, I'm pretty confident it's a bad circuit board. They're like, is it a bad circuit board or is it 120 degrees outside? I'm like, well, you got a point. I'm sure many techs who work up north where it does not get as hot as it does here in Las Vegas probably like working on fridges more than I do. I just have such a hard time with fridges out here in Las Vegas in the summer, where you get to the point where you're like, yep, I'm 80% sure that you have a bad fridge, but I can't know for sure because it's 120 degrees outside and the fridge doesn't like it being that hot. It is a really hard thing to be able to tell a customer. While we're talking about appliances, let's talk about your water heater, which honestly, we're just gonna put, I'm gonna say like National Park, maybe the bottom end of National Park or top end of RV park. I like water heaters way more than fridges. I'll go the bottom end of National Park. Water heaters in RVs, I'm specifically talking about tanked water heaters here, super easy to diagnose because they have a really easy access panel. So you really just pop open that access panel and boom, everything's right there. If you are new to fixing things around your RV and want to get into playing around and, learn about testing things, I would recommend starting with your water heater. The parts are super simple. It's super easy to get to. Water heaters, just super easy to work on. So from there, let's talk about generators. For me, personally, generators, I'm gonna put at the very bottom end of Walmart parking lot with a huge asterisk on this. So most techs are probably gonna rank generators much higher than I am. And honestly, if you're considering becoming a tech, you could have a whole business that is just working on RV generators. If you're considering going to the NRVTA and taking the generators class, you will get more out of it if you already have some knowledge in small engines. I did not. I know most people that have tools and hands-on tool knowledge and consider them like a tools person got that experience from like tinkering in their garage with their dad. I come from building props and sets for musicals with my mom. So I just have a different set of life experience than most people who come into this business and most people that might be working on a generator. I personally came out of the generators class at the NRVTA and went, yeah, I understand it. I'd probably work on my own generator, but I don't think I'll be fixing anyone else's generator anytime soon. So for me personally, right now, I am not taking most generator calls, but I don't have this like hatred of generators that we will have for a handful of other things that are going to make it all the way down to broke down on the side of the road. I am taking 2 months this year, is like scheduled in the calendar, to just concentrate on learning more about generators. So that way I can take more generator calls, but also make more helpful content online to help people with their generator. From there, let's get something to put on broke down on the side of the road, this bottom tier. And for that, for me, is gonna be black tank work. I think this is relatively self-explanatory, but when you first get into this business, you are like trying to take every call that comes in because you're like, I just want the experience, I just want the money, I want to get as many calls under my belt as I can. And so in the beginning, I took black tank calls. I'll tell you, I have never been happier as a businesswoman when I took black tank information off of my website. Honestly, it's not difficult work most of the time, like to mentally figure out what's wrong, but it is just gross. It smells. And it is so easy with black tank work to get in over your head really fast. Something that looks like it's gonna be a small, easy fix, all of a sudden becomes a much bigger problem and something you need to solve because you have exposed poo lines. going everywhere. When I first got into this business, I was like, oh, I'll do black tank work. I don't care about getting dirty. That's all right by me. And then you have one black tank call where shit goes sideways, literally. And then you're like, you know what? I'm okay. I can let this call go. So if you want advice as a business person, go ahead. If you want to take black tank work as a new tech, go for it. Live your best life. But feel fine saying no. Especially at the end of your first year in business, sit down and go like, okay, what were my 10 least favorite calls of the year? And how can I avoid having more calls like that? Along a similar vein, gray tanks also don't tend to work on them anymore. Gray tanks in people's RVs are sometimes grosser than their black tank because people are so nervous and self-conscious about their black tank smelling that they put treatment in it, they wash it out frequently, they keep an eye on it. People don't think about their gray tanks. You can have rotting food in there. You can have some gross stuff that people have put down their sink and then completely forgot about it. Out of sight, out of mind. Hard pass. Somebody calls me for their gray tank. I'm like, may I recommend you to my friend over here? I'm sure he would love to help you. Let's see, what else do we have on here? Awnings. Awnings for me are gonna be top end of RV park. Most of the time when people are calling about their awning, they are calling about replacing the awning fabric. As a tech, the first time you do one of these, it is nerve-wracking as all get out. If you don't know, awnings usually have a big spring built into them that helps them keep tension, so when they're all the way out, your fabric stays nice and taut. When you go to replace the fabric, you need to put a pin through the tube of the awning in order to hold all that tension, and then you can slide the fabric off. The first time you do that, it is super nerve-wracking. You feel like that pin is gonna fly out, and you're really nervous about losing tension in that tube. After you've done the first one, awning fabric replacements feel so easy. You could do them all day long. Love replacing awning fabrics. The first time you lose tension in that tube, it's also super scary. You hear this big like, you feel your soul leave your body. And then you realize you just need to go grab, I forget what it's called, like a pipe holder, pipe tool. I'll put a picture of it here. And you can very easily get that tension back in, throw your pin back in, and you're good to go. After you've done one or two of these awning replacements, they're super quick, super easy. People pay good money for them because they think that they're kind of difficult. You do need 2 people to do an awning fabric replacement. Highly recommend if you're gonna get into this business. Find a friend. If you're working by yourself, find somebody who can be your go-to for calls where you need an extra set of hands. I now have somebody that I love when I get to call and be like, hey, can you come help me out? So yes, awning calls were something that I probably would have put at like the low end of Walmart parking lot when I first got started in this business, and now love every time an awning fabric replacement comes in. I will say ordering the fabric, nerve-wracking as hell. Every single company wants you to measure the fabric differently from a different place. And they're like, if you measure wrong, it's all on you. So if you can, this is one place where I try to get the customer to order the fabric. And then if the fabric's wrong, it's on them. And then I just replace the fabric for them. Great. And just know if you're an RV owner and you want to replace your own awning fabric, way easier than it looks. If you are able-bodied and have an able-bodied friend who wants to help you out for an afternoon, definitely something that you can do on your own. You do not need to call a tech to replace awning fabric. Let's see, what's something that could be in rust stop? Something I feel ambivalent about. We'll probably go water leaks. A lot of the times when people call for water leaks, what they're actually calling for is somebody small. People a lot of times know where the water is coming from, they just can't reach it. So a lot of times the diagnosis itself is pretty easy. You're like, yep, that's leaking water. And it's just about being able to get in there and get where the water leak is. Other things I've done when tracking down water leaks is just start wrapping every connection near where the puddle is with paper towels. It'll start telling you the story based on where paper towels are getting wet and where they aren't, what the path of the water is, and that can help you track down where it's coming from. Water leaks tend not to be very difficult to solve. They tend not to be difficult to track down. They're just a pain in the butt. They're not my favorite. I'm not excited when you call about it, but I pretty much always have the parts on the truck. I can usually solve it same day. They're not my favorite calls, but hey, we'll get it done. From there, let's talk about leveling systems. That's what this cute little level is about. The tricky part with leveling systems is there are so many makes, models, brands. When it comes to appliances, there's usually just like two. Like when it comes to fridges, Norcold and Dometic, and you pretty much got all the fridges out there. When it comes to air conditioners, it's Dometic and Coleman Mach. Once you know those two, you can pretty much diagnose every air conditioner out there. There are so many leveling systems, and some of them have like very unique and quirky things about them that you don't know until you work on them for the first time. We can also break down leveling systems into electric and hydraulic. I find electric systems easier to work on than hydraulics, so I'd probably put electric leveling systems probably at the upper end of rest stop. I'm not excited to get that call, but it's not a huge pain in the butt. We can probably track it down. Hydraulic leveling systems, on the other hand, we're gonna put on the upper end of Walmart parking lot. Hydraulic leveling systems add in an extra layer of complexity. You need to know how to troubleshoot both electrical systems and hydraulic systems. And the kickover point tends to be at the pump. So if the pump is acting weirdly, it can be tricky at times to figure out, is it an electrical problem? Like, has the pump failed electrically? Or is it a hydraulic problem? Like, is something making the hydraulic fluid either too easy or too hard to push? And that kickover point can be really tricky to diagnose. I'm sure someone out there that like grew up on a farm and working with hydraulics a lot more finds that kickover point much easier to diagnose. I personally just find it a pain in the butt at times. Also, working with hydraulic fluid, so messy. And I know that some people out there are better at it, but I try so hard. And somehow every time I work with hydraulic fluid, I just end up a mess. And by the end, I'm tired and I'm hungry and I just want to go home. This was a picture from the worst time where I wish I had gotten this on camera. I knew somebody had a hydraulic leak and I knew that their underbelly was full of hydraulic fluid or transmission fluid. And so I had thought that I had drained out the underbelly and I thought I had gotten the worst of it out. So when I went to go cut an access panel so I could get to the line, I am laying down on my back under this underbelly. I go to do the first cut and it just explodes on my chest. So ever since then, I'm just hydraulic lines and me. We've had a vendetta. We keep our eye on each other. So yes, I personally find electrical leveling systems easier to diagnose than hydraulics. Ooh, we are running late. I gotta get out of here. I gotta go take a call. So we're gonna crank through these last four kind of quick. Slides. The tricky part with slides as a mobile tech is there can be a really wide range of things that could be wrong with them, and it is near impossible over the phone to figure out where you fall in that spectrum as a customer. It could be that the problem with your slide is you've blown a fuse and I can solve that problem in under 60 seconds. Or it could be that you need your entire slide rebuilt. You need the motors and the tracks taken off and a whole new rack and pinion set put in. And even at that end, the full rebuild, I can sometimes do as a mobile tech if you have a very small slide. But if you're getting into these slides that are like the full length of your rig and they have a kitchen in them and they're super heavy, there's not a whole lot I can do to help you as a mobile tech if you need a slide rebuild. But it can be very difficult over the phone to figure out where in that whole spectrum of things you land. And the hardest thing as a mobile tech is to drive all the way out to somebody and be like, I know what's wrong with your RV and I cannot solve it for you. It means I really can't charge you for that time, so I've just wasted time as a business person. And that's just really hard. So for me, slides in general, I'm gonna have to put at the bottom end of Walmart parking lot. I'll maybe put the slide isn't moving at all up to rest stop. That usually just means that there's a bad fuse somewhere. There's a couple hidden fuses in there. But slide is moving and making weird noises, or slide is moving and being very jittery, that's where we start getting into, there's a good chance I'm not gonna be able to help you as a mobile tech. And then our final two things, we've got propane leaks. Oh my goodness, propane leaks, I'll even put on, I'll put in between gray tank and black tank. Propane leaks, super hard to track down. super hard. It's very easy to tell you if you have a propane leak. I can run a test called a time pressure drop test. It takes about 5 minutes. I can just hook up a tester to your stove and let you know very quickly if you have a propane leak. To track down where that propane leak is coming from could take 5 minutes, could take 5 years. There's not a great way to track down propane leaks other than to start cracking lines and capping lines. Like, okay, let's disconnect your fridge, see if you still have a leak. Okay, let's disconnect your water heater, see if you still have a leak. It is really hard to track down. So yes, I will get people calling saying they're smelling propane, and I have to be like, I'm so sorry, that's something you should take to a shop. Usually as a mobile tech, you're looking for calls that you think you can get in and out of in about an hour. And wowza, with propane leaks, that is something that could just go on and on and on and on. Especially with older rigs, you can start getting into lines that are like rusted shut, so you can't even open them to see if that's your problem. Oh my God, even just thinking about it. Tracking down propane leaks is not it. Do not love it. And then finally, this hand here is representing working on anything that a customer has touched before you got there. At the NRVTA, we called them putter butts. Somebody that's thought they knew about something and started tinkering with it and then got in over their head and called you. Super hard. And I know, I get it. Especially, I put out content on the internet trying to help people fix things in their rig by themselves. And I'm a proponent of it. I really think more people should try to fix things in their RVs, but wow, does it make it hard for the tech that comes in and follows you. I'll probably put this at the bottom end of rest stop. It doesn't completely throw everything out the window. It can just be really hard if the customer has like moved around wires and didn't realize it, or changed out a fuse for the wrong size and didn't realize it. I've had those things screw me in the past. Anything that a customer has touched before you got there, it can then just be really hard to tell what was original from the manufacturer and what problems has the customer caused themselves. Oh, it's so tricky to tell sometimes. But that's it, guys. Those are 18 roughly of the most common calls that I get as a tech and how excited I am when they come in. Let me know down in the comments, what problems have you had in your RV? If you are an RV tech, let me know in the comments, what are your favorite calls to get as a tech? And what of the calls that I hate do you love getting? Maybe you are a black tank expert and you are surprised that I hate working on black tanks. Who knows? This has been RV Repairwoman. You got this.